And so that's what we're trying to do here. And this little background, I'm trying to, what I want to do is show you guys that this is actually a very, very important topic, and it allows us to, sift through the noise. Warren Buffett looks at companies. He doesn't look at companies that on their profit and loss. He looks at companies on how well they produce cash and how well they collect cash, working capital. And so we want to demystify this stuff for you guys and hopefully provide some value in kind of all this noise you guys have. And if you think about demystifying it, if you break it down to, what I call the least common denominator, the simplest form, which is cash, it becomes demystified. But the problem is again, we do things kind of backwards sometimes, especially in things like accounting. So the first thing to remember when you look at your QuickBooks or your Xero or any type of Excel model you guys have or your accountants use is that the way that we do our P&L and the accounting P&L is not what your cash is. So you're trying to be profitable, which is great. But profitability on marketing expenses and revenue you get is not really the best way to survive your business. And the reason why is everything is based on accrual-based accounting. You can do cash accounting, but cash accounting is not considered GAAP or generally acceptable accounting principles, which is what you do for taxes. So P&Ls are very important. It's what accountants use. It's what gives you your taxes. It gives you kind of the health, like the longevity of a business over the long term because of, you recognize revenue, but it's really hard because it doesn't really give you the cash. One simple example is if you pay money on credit card, even if you expense it right now, that payment is not due for 30 days from now. So when that bill comes due, if that money's not in the bank, that's when it hits. And that's just the simplest way of thinking about cash versus accrual accounting. And so when we think about how we help our customers out is in a very similar way. We look at cash first, not P&L. It's the cash flow statement that's important. And so to manage your business through these turbulent time, the most important thing is around managing cash and not managing your P&L like we talked about. So this is kind of that simple way to think about it. Here's some things that, we've done in research and we found even in our own experiences and what I give to my CEOs when I was a CEO or when I'm a CFO. One thing is leverage timing of cash. So leverage non-cash tools. One really easy way someone told me, I think 5-6 years ago, was MX Plum. If you look MX Plum, why would you want to look at MX Plum? Is because it has a 60-day payable. They give you a little bit of bonus if you pay ahead of time in 30 days, but you don't have any problem with paying 60 days. So if you do Google marketing, you can use your credit card. And even if you expense it now and you're purchasing, you're basically marketing to get direct acquisition, you don't have to pay that credit card bill for 60 days. And that pushing the can down the road allows you to, invest in your business now. And so leverage the timing of cash. Negotiate with your suppliers. Right now in this time, obviously suppliers are really tough. Even the smallest things, like we did this in 2 of our customers where we went in and took even the small, $2,000 a month, or like $1,000 or $50 a month kind of contracts you have. And we went back and said, look, I'm not going to be able to do something until we are in a better visibility. And people are okay with that because they're dealing with the same stuff. So, it's kind of bad because you want to collect, your job is to collect cash as much as you can and collect that AR. On the other side, you want to be able to push the AP as much as you can. So leverage timing of cash. The second thing is to manage the business through this is trim the fat. And so you never want to do a massive ratchet job on your business. What you really want to do is curb non-essential spending. So new equipment, let's put it back. New laptops, let's extend it. Any perks, that you have in payroll, let's manage that over the short term. Your employees will understand as they get, jobs. And if you obviously, you want to be able to manage inventory more closely. The other thing is like, optimize marketing not for growth, but for margin expansion. So what we find in the CPG space is if you shut down marketing, your entire business goes in. So it has a ripple effect. If someone doesn't come in, your organic traffic cannot go down. People coming to your Shopify storefronts reduce. And so just shutting everything down and then turning it back on is really tough. And even Google's algorithms take time to boot back up. And so they need the data. And so shutting on and off is just not a good thing to do. And so what you want to do is manage everything, make it as trimmed down as you possibly can. and kind of focus on that cash flow to reinvest in that in your business, and kind of doing more tests and more, being much more thoughtful on it. So leverage timing, trim fat, find alternative source of cash. Easier said than done, obviously. But the one thing that's happened in this world is that there's a lot more access digitally that you used to have before. One great example is Circle Up, is a company that does AR factoring for retail, but they now don't take your historical, P&L financials. They just give you, they look at your Shopify revenue stream, and they just give you based off of live data. Clearbank and gives you offerings on your marketing spend, and they look at historical 12-month spend on your real-time data that's coming in from Google. So they're taking your data. It's not that you have to go and do a lot of work. There's 60 what they call neobanks, which are digital banks. SoFi has become one. It used to be a financing arm for business schools or schools in general to refinance your student loans. And so SoFi has now built an entire banking structure around it, where and it's easier to apply, and it's not really you don't need to get a colonoscopy as you would do in a traditional bank. And so as those mechanisms change, you can find alternatives to cash use. So what you're doing is pushing things down the road. You're trimming fat. You're finding alternatives. It doesn't have to be a lot. You're not. These are low interest kind of things. You guys have built probably a lot of access. Obviously, PPP, take advantage of it, but those are ways that you can extend your business in these times. Is being flexible, being open, trying to figure out what to do, looking at policies on payables, and all you're trying to do is really survive. And then the last thing is when I say survive as well as reinvest, that sounds counterintuitive in a turbulent market, especially when it comes down to when I just gave 82% of business failed, that numerical number. But the reason why it's so important to invest internally is that even in this time, you want to be able to take little tests, and you want to make your business a little bit more efficient. And it's an opportunity to make it efficient. So rather than sitting back and talking like this is the world that's going to happen, is you change your mindset of what things can I extract out of my business. So, something like, our product is not going to be, people use large products. Ours is going to be very, very small in terms of price per, but that's because we're like a SaaS business. So instead of big licenses, you do small SaaS products, which are $10 a month, $20 a month. E-procurement, clean up the books, invest in simple market strategies, keep focusing on product, try to see if there's flexibility in your supply chain. Like those investing internally doesn't need to be capital. It can also be time. And that's where you really want to spend your time. So to manage business, and what most CFOs and try to do is they assess their business, they look at scenarios, they see the landscape, they try to maximize timing of cash. And it's kind of what the financial instruments are. It's what the big Goldman Sachs type of banks tend to do a lot of, is get access to cash. And they trim fat, and they don't stop thinking about their business and investing into it. And so these are really, I think, some of the ways to do that. And so when you think about financial management, and this is the last slide before we jump into Matt's section, which will really be about, here are some specific things that you can do in terms of marketing, inventory. But I want you to really, this is more of a step back. You have to actively monitor your cash flow. So you have to get out of the fact that, hey, I have, you have to be able to monitor ARAP. You have to be prudent. So you have to be very good at it. You have to make it timely. You have to make it accurate information. You have to be on your accountants. Accountants' number one job is to sit there and close your books. But timing of closing books can be certain amount of days after a month closes, and you don't close your books every week. And so you have to be there and to be aware of it. And so tools like ourselves, or your own Excels, or whatever it is an easy way to do it, or just hounding your accountants. Build truthful scenarios. When I say truthful, don't kid yourself. Just take conservative looks, and take various ways of doing it. So if I'm conservative, what does it look like? If I'm a little bit more aggressive, what does that look like in terms of investment now and cash out right now? And truth is tough, because it's hard to look at, your business is your own baby, and my business are my own baby in that same regard. And the last thing is, if you haven't done it, I know, it's hard for me to financially manage even my own finances. Then you have to think about your own business's finances. So just make sure you enforce budgets, establish it, and just, if you haven't. So those are the kind of things that I think, from a perspective of ways you can leverage it, cash, and kind of the important parts of financial management, that it becomes important.